The Money Myth Exploded was written in 1936. Number 1, shipwreck survivors. An explosion had blown their ship apart. Each one held on to the first bit of wreckage that came to hand, and when it was over, there were 5 left, 5 huddled on a raft, which the waves carried along aimlessly. As for the other victims of the disaster, there was no sign of them. For hours, long hours, their eyes searched the horizon. Would a passing ship see them? Would their makeshift raft find its way to some friendly shore? Suddenly a cry rang out, "Look, over there, in the direction the waves are taking us." And as the shoreline draws nearer, faces brighten up. There are 5 of them. Frank, the big and energetic carpenter. It was he who had first cried land. Paul, a farmer, whom you can see front and left in the picture, kneeling with one hand on the ground, the other gripping the mast of the raft. And Jim, the animal breeder, is the one wearing striped pants. Harry, a plant specialist, a little plump, is sitting on a trunk salvaged from the wreck. And Tom, a geologist, is the big guy who stands in the back with his hands on the carpenter's shoulders. Okay, so the reason I like this story so much is it explains how money works, but it shows you that this can happen with 5 people. This can happen in a home. This can happen when you order a pizza. That's why when people say, we just have to get rid of the government. I see governments form constantly. Number 2, a provincial land. To our 5 men, setting foot on the land was like returning to life from the grave. After they had dried and warmed themselves, their first impulse was to explore this little island onto which they had been cast, far from civilization. A quick survey was sufficient to raise their spirit. The island was not a barren rock. True enough, they were the only men on it at the moment, but judging from the herds of semi-domesticated animals that they had encountered, other people had lived here in the past. Jim, the animal breeder, claimed that he could improve the herds and get good return from it. Paul found the island soil to be quite suitable for cultivation, for the most part. Harry discovered some fruit trees, which, if properly tended, would bring in a good benefit. Frank was mainly impressed by the large stands of timber and their many species of wood. It would be no big deal to cut trees and to build houses for the little colony. As for Tom, the prospector, he was mainly interested by the more rocky part of the island. Many signs led him to believe that the undersoil had rich minerals. Notwithstanding his lack of tools, Tom felt that his ingenuity and initiative would allow him to produce metals from the ore. Every person could thus practice his favorite trade for everyone else's benefit. Together, they thanked Providence for what might otherwise have been a major tragedy, and the island was called Salvation Island. Salvage. True wealth, number 3. And so they got to work. The carpenter built houses and made furniture. At first, they find the food where they can, but soon the fields are tilled and seeded. The farmer harvests the crops. As seasons pass, the island's wealth increases, not with gold or paper money, but with real wealth. Things which feed, dress, shelter, things that answer needs. Life wasn't always as smooth as they wished it would be. They lacked many of the things they had grown accustomed to in the civilized world, but their lot could have been a great deal worse. Besides all had experienced the Depression in Canada, hilarious Canada, they still remembered the hardship they had endured while stores, filled to overflowing, stood within walking distance of their doorstep. At least on Salvation Island, no one forced them to watch the things they needed to go to waste before their eyes. Taxes were unknown here, nor did they live with the constant fear of seizure by the bailiff. They worked hard at times, but at least they could enjoy the fruits of their labor. Thus, the island was developed, all the while thanking God and hoping for the day they could be reunited with friends and family, having retained both life and health, 2 of the greatest blessings. I think there's a gaslight script from Groundworks to convince people they need to be controlled. The Mouse Utopia experiment. I witnessed the Mouse Utopia experiment every city I've ever been to. No, I don't think it's grabbled. That's why you don't hear about it in school, because it's so obviously true. Number 4, before I get to that, let me quickly read these super chats. Politics or professional wrestling, says Jason Langham. And Chance says, Krishna means black. In the ancient world depicted the savior God with black skin all over the world. Well, that's nonsense. Anyway, a serious inconvenience. Thank you for the super chat, though. Our men often got together to talk business. Under the simple economic system they had developed, one thing bothered them more and more. They had no money of any kind. Barter, the direct exchange of goods against goods, has its drawbacks. The products to be exchanged are not always present at the same time. For example, wood delivered to the farmer during the winter could not be redeemed with potatoes until another 6 months had passed. That's why the original money, by the way, it's always been a form of an IOU. Or else one man might have an article of considerable size he wished to exchange for a number of smaller articles produced by different men at different times. All this made business more difficult. With money in circulation, each one could sell his products to the others for money. With the money, they could buy from the others the things they wanted at the moment they wanted or at the time becomes available. By the way, this is all good so far. All agreed that a money system would be practical, but none of them knew how to set up such a system. They knew how to produce true wealth, goods, but they did not know how to produce the symbols, money. They did not know how money begins and how to make it begin when there is none, and they're to decide to have some. Many well-educated men would no doubt have been faced with the same difficulty. Our governments were all in that same predicament during the 10 years prior to the war. The only thing the country lacked at that time was money, and the government remained paralyzed by this problem. Number 5, arrival of a refugee. One evening, when all 5 men were sitting on the beach going over their problem for the 100th time, they suddenly saw approaching a small boat with a solitary man at the oars with a very, very small hat. They made haste to help him. He was given proper treatment. They then engaged in conversation. They learned that he, too, had escaped a shipwreck of which he was the sole survivor. His name was Oliver. Delighted to have a new companion, they gave him a warm welcome and they took him on a tour of the colony. Even though we're lost and cut off from the rest of the world, they told him, we can't complain. The earth and the forest are good to us. The only thing that we are missing is money to facilitate the exchange of our products. Well, you can thank Providence, replied Oliver. Money has no secrets for me. I'm a banker, and in no time I can set up a system of money guaranteed to satisfy you. A banker, an angel coming down from heaven could not have inspired more reverence. Are we not accustomed, we civilized people, to bow down before bankers, they who control the lifeblood of finance? Number 6, the god of civilization. By the way, the picture of the banker is exactly how you picture it. Mr. Oliver, as our banker, you have no other work to do other than look after our money. I shall carry out this duty, having, as any banker would, the satisfaction of forgiving the community's prosperity. The satisfaction of forging the community's prosperity. Mr. Oliver, we're going to build you a house worthy of a banker. But in the meantime, do you mind living in the building we use to hold our meetings? That will be fine, my friends. But let us first unload from the boat what I was able to salvage from the wreck. There's a small printing press with some paper and accessories. And above all, there's a little barrel that you will need to handle with the greatest of care. They unloaded everything. The small barrel aroused intense curiosity in these people. This barrel, declared Oliver, contains an unequaled treasure. It is filled with gold. Full of gold? 5 souls came close to parting with 5 bodies. The god of civilization had landed upon Salvation Island. The golden god, always hidden, yet ever so powerful, so terrible, whose presence, absence, or slightest whims can decide the fate of hundreds of nations. Gold, Mr. Oliver, you are indeed a great banker. Do accept our humble homage and our oaths of fidelity. Yes, my friends, gold is enough for a continent, but gold is not for circulation. Gold must be hidden. Gold is the soul of sound money, and the soul must remain invisible. But I'll explain this further when I lend you the money. Number 7, the secret burial. This, by the way, it's the same trick they do over and over and over. And this is the only thing that currently matters when it comes to politics. Politics, what button you press does not matter at all. Before they went their separate ways for the night, Oliver asked them one question. How much money will you need to begin with in order to facilitate trading? They looked at one another, then differentially toward the banker. After a bit of calculation and with the advice of the kindly banker, they declared that $200 each would do. The men parted, exchanging enthusiastic comments, going to bed late. It was morning before they could get any sleep after having spent the night lying awake, dreaming of gold, their eyes wide open. As for Oliver, he wasted no time. Fatigue was forgotten as he concentrated on his future as a banker. By dawn's first light, he dug a pit into which he rolled the barrel. He then filled in the hole, covering it with tufts of grass, and went so far as to transplant a shrub, so to erase all traces. Then he went back to work with his little press to turn out 1,000 $1 bills. Watching the clean new banknotes come out of the press, he thought to himself, how simple it is to make money. It will draw its value from the products it will buy. Without products, these bills will be worthless. My 5 naive customers don't know this. They believe that money derives its value from gold. I hold them in my power through their ignorance. At nightfall, the 5 came running to Oliver. Number 8, who owns the money? 5 bundles of new banknotes were sitting on the table. Before distributing the money, said the banker, I would like your attention. Now the basis of all money is gold, and the gold stored away in the vault of my bank is my gold. Therefore, the money is mine. Oh, don't look so sad. I'm going to lend you this money, and you're going to use it as you please. I will only charge you interest. Riba. Considering the money is scarce here, since there is none, I think I am reasonable in asking a meager 8% interest. Oh, that's quite reasonable, Mr. Oliver. One more thing, my friends. Business is business, even between good friends. Before getting your money, each of you is going to sign a document whereby you promise to pay back both the interest and capital under penalty of confiscation of property by myself. Oh, this is a mere formality. Your property is of no interest to me. I'm satisfied with money. And I feel sure that you'll keep your property and that I'll get my money back. That makes sense, Mr. Oliver. We'll work harder than ever in order to pay you back. That's the spirit. And anytime you have a problem, you come and see me. Your banker is your best friend. Now here's $200 for each of you. And the 5 men happily went away, their hands and their heads filled with dollar bills. Number 9, an arithmetic problem. Oliver's money circulated on the island, made simpler by money, trade doubled. Everyone is happy and the banker is greeted with respect and gratitude. Nevertheless, Tom, the prospector, looks worried. His products are still underground. He has only a few dollars left. How can he reimburse the banker his soon-to-be expired loan? After wrestling with this, his own problem, Tom decided to look at it from the standpoint of the whole community. Can the population of the island, taken as a whole, he mused, meet its obligations? Oliver issued a total of $1,000. He's asking $1,080 in return. But even if we were to bring him every dollar bill on the island, we would still be $80 short. Nobody issued the extra $80. We turn out products, not dollar bills. Oliver can therefore take over the entire island, since we together as a group cannot pay back both money and interest. Do you see? If those who can afford to pay back do so without care for the others, some will fail right away and some will survive. But their turn will come and the banker will seize everything. Better to unite now and settle this matter as a group. Tom had no problem convincing the others that they had been taken in by Oliver. A meeting with Oliver was decided upon, the benevolent banker. Oliver guessed that was on their minds, but he put on his best front. Frank, impulsive as ever, stated their case. How can we bring back $1,080 when there's only $1,000 on the entire island? That's because of the interest, my friends. Did your production not increase? Yes, but the money hasn't. And it is money you're asking for, not our products. You were the only one who can make money, but you made only $1,000 and yet you asked for $1,080. This is not possible. Now listen, my friends, for the greater good of the community, bankers always adapt themselves to the conditions of the time. I will require that you only pay the interest, only $80. You will hold on to the capital. Are you going to cancel the $200 each that we owe? Oh, no, I'm sorry, but a banker never cancels a debt. You still owe me all the money you borrowed, but each year you will redeem only the interest. I won't pressure you into paying back the capital. Maybe some of you won't be able to repay even the interest because of the money changing hands among you, but you can organize yourself into a nation and set up a system of contributions called taxes. Those who have more money will pay higher taxes. The others will pay less. As long as you bring me, collectively, the total amount owed as interest, I shall be satisfied and your nation will thrive. The 5 of them left, somewhat pacified, but still thoughtful. Number 11, Oliver exults. Oliver is alone. He is deep in reflection. His thoughts run thus. Business is good. These men are good workers, but stupid. Their ignorance and naivety is my strength. They asked for money, and I gave them chains instead. They covered me with flowers while I was picking their pockets. Oh, great banker, I feel your banking genius coursing through my entire being. Illustrious master, how right you were when you said, give me control of a nation's money, and I care not who makes its laws. I'm the master of Salvation Island because I control its money. I could rule the universe. What I, Oliver, have done here, I can do throughout the world. Let the day come when I can leave this island. I know how to rule the world without wearing a crown. And the whole structure of the banking system reveals itself to Oliver's delighted mind. Number 12, the cost of living becomes unbearable. Sound familiar?